Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I think that you are sick of hearing this mantra. We have to defeat Russia. Ukraine will win against Russia. Okay, well, that's good. Some people might have that wish, and maybe that's going to come true. I doubt that will be possible, but that's me. It would be possible in certain kind of circumstances, obviously. But in probabilities, I would give it very low probability that the Ukrainians would be able to militarily defeat Russia. And I will make that point in this video, but I have an article here coming from Japan. And we have a former Prime Minister of Japan who thinks the same way. He says, unthinkable. It is unthinkable that Russia will lose in Ukraine. Let's read this article and see how this gentleman argues to support his claim. So this article comes from Russia Today. It is from January 25, 2023. And I'm quoting, unthinkable Russia would lose in Ukraine conflict. Ex-Japanese Prime Minister Yoshiro Mori lamented Tokyo siding with Kiev at the cost of its relationship with Moscow. So this gentleman says, well, we sided with Kiev probably for nothing that is in our self-interest, but because we were pushed by our bosses, and we destroyed the relationship that we built slowly with Russia. Now, let's read what he says regarding this issue. It is, and I'm quoting, almost unthinkable, end quote, that Russia would lose in the Ukraine conflict. Former Japanese Prime Minister Yoshiro Mori has said, questioning the US-led drive to support Kiev, which Tokyo has joined. And I'm quoting, it is fine to put so much effort in Ukraine, question mark, end quote. The former official asked, as quoted by Japanese media, and I'm quoting again. It's almost unthinkable that Russia will lose, end quote. He added during a meeting of the Japan-India Association in Tokyo on Wednesday. The 85-year-old politician explained he didn't understand why Tokyo was willing to damage its relationship with Moscow after, and I'm quoting, we have come so far, end quote. Russia and Japan have an unresolved territorial dispute and are technically still at war with each other. They didn't sign a peace treaty after the Second World War. They're technically still at war, my friends. Mori served as the head of the Japanese government for just over a year between 2000 and 2001, with his term mired by unfriendly media coverage of his gaffes. Well, we have Bush the second, and we have this semi-conscious Biden, so the media is covering for them, obviously, at least for this last little beep. All right. After resigning, he was picked to lead the organization body of the 2020 Summer Olympics. Despite criticism at home, Mori fostered good rapport with the Russian government, partially thanks to a family connection. Love is in the air, I guess. No. His father, who served as major in a small Japanese town, had a passion for preserving the tombs of Japanese soldiers in the Soviet Union. He found lifelong friends and had similar respect for the war dead on the other side of the border, and even asked that part of his ashes be buried in Russia. The young Mori, anyway, boom, 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 he has a chemistry with President Vladimir Putin, so he's on his payroll, people will say. But anyway, in November, Mori lashed out the Japanese media for what he believes to be one-sided coverage of the Ukraine conflict, relying solely on US and European sources. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky was no subjected to any criticism, he observed, even though he, and I'm quoting, has made many Ukrainian people suffer, end quote. Incumbent Prime Minister Fumio Kishida criticized Russia on Monday, blah, 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 tra-la-la. It was about the Kuril issues, because they want those islands maybe back sometime, no? and Russia doesn't want to give it to them. And at least these guys build a rapport, a friendship, however, they at least talk to one another. After this BS, it's all gone. Now let's see. How could, as I said, they say Russia will lose, Ukraine will win. Okay, let's take it militarily. Militarily would be like this. NATO pumps money, weapons, and personnel, whatever, okay, in Ukraine. Ukraine pushes the Russians back. The Russians are incapable, even with a general mobilization of 30 million people available. Russia will not be able to push the Ukrainians back because the Ukrainians have bigger bone. All right, so let's pretend we're idiots a little bit and we accept that theory or scenario. So the Ukrainians will be able, with the American weapons and all the technology that the Russians are still using their clubs to fight them, but the guys have all kind of all those satellites. And anyway, so this is how the story goes. This technology will beat the Neanderthal Russians, even though the Neanderthal had more brains than we do as a capacity. Anyway, let's move on. So the Ukrainians somehow will push back on the 30 million Russians that had a general mobilization. Okay? And then we'll get, and they're going to stop at the border. They will not go further than that. The border that was in February 24th, 2022. And then they will stop over there. Then what? And the Russians will accept it. They say, oh, well, we lost. Children, in school, you're going to learn that Ukraine beat you. Do you think that's the way it's going to play? And then do you think the Ukrainians, if that would be the stupidity, they will stop over there and say, okay, guys, here is the demarcation line we got so far. We're not going to go 1 inch eastward, like NATO told the Soviets, right? No, or the Russians, no 1 inch further east extension or expanding NATO. Remember? So the same Ukrainians will keep their word. So I say, that's it. Then what? They will ask the Russians for reparations, correct? And then the Russians will say yes. Why? So you have to make them somehow. How are you going to make them? Get to Moscow? So how do you see this victory going? And the Russians say, yes, we're going to have in our national conscience from now on that we lost to Ukraine. Do you believe that? Or let's go to the other scenario. When the Ukrainians get to the border over there and they say, well, you know what, we pushed you so far, we're just going to stop right here. Do you think the Russians, if they lose with their clubs, pong, 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 they don't going to use nuclear weapons? Do you think so? I think that's very, very, very not possible, because it's 100% possible, probable. I would say very probable. Why do you think that the Russian nation would live like the Germans would live, with this shame that they lost, but at least Germany lost to the rest of the world, and these guys are losing to Ukraine? That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Now, the only way the Ukrainians will win, Ukrainians meaning the West, would be if they succeed on cutting the leadership of Russia altogether. And that's about, 300 people. I would assume, because you have to take military out, you have to take the first echelon, the second echelon, and take care of them. Gone. And then put your people up. They would do what you want them to do. Then you won. That's the only scenario. Or it breaks from inside somehow, but remember, if it breaks from within, they still have nuclear weapons. And if it's one piece that did not break, right, it's still there, they still have nuclear weapons. So again, how would you figure things out that you will win? Do you think the Russians will come and say, you know what, we lost, man, we won peace. Okay, we're going to go back, all the killings, all the death, all the money, everything, all the lives that were lost, we just go back to the territory. We're going to pay the Ukrainians and the Americans and the Western countries already provided a bill of how much the reconstruction of Ukraine would have cost a month ago, about $500 billion then. But I guarantee you that's going to triple. Why? Because they can. And what are you going to do? Nothing. You lost, right? So do you think the Russians don't think that way? Do you think that once you say we lost, these guys are not going to impose everything to you? What do you think? They say, okay, now let's shake hands. We're not going to have Nuremberg-style trials or anything. No, 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 no. We're going to be just friends. Boom, right? I mean, this is such a juvenile way of thinking that Ukraine would possibly win militarily in this war. Or NATO. NATO will provide how much weapons they want. There will not be people enough to fight. Use them. But hey, they give it a try. The Ukrainians are, I think, buffaloed into doing it. You got the Ukrainian leadership, that's gonna do whatever, and that's gonna be it. We're gonna find out. It's true, Putin is not gonna be forever, but I'm afraid someone worse than Putin will come over there. Then what? Imagine that Medvedev comes in power. Supposedly he's the bad dude right now, but I might think that he's just a mole. Medvedev. He just makes a lot of noise, but when he's people will say, "Oh, let's promote Medvedev. He's the Putin's protege or something." I have big caution. I'm very caution about, or how should I put it? I don't trust the guy. I think he's overdoing it right now to show how tough he is. But if he gets in power, I think he's gonna just shake hands with the West in a disadvantageous way for Russia. But hey, that's my view on that. And this gentleman here, former Prime Minister of Japan, he's not an idiot. How could you lose? How could you lose? And then what? If they lose, would you think they're just gonna say, "Yeah, we lost, man. Shake hands, thank you very much, take pictures together, and then you can my nation"? No. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just. See you later, my friends.